going.
Talking about the third album, which is my third favorite album of all time. And I'll tell you why.
All threes. Everything comes in threes.
Yeah, right? Comedy comes in threes. You got to burp 2 more times before that's funny.
Maybe.
So, for anyone who watched my Happy Foo Year series, I was a young buck. I was inexperienced. I didn't really know how to form my thoughts when talking about... I didn't really know how to make videos. So, if you go back and watch that video, I think it's like 4 minutes long. And there's no content or substance to it. So, just ignore that. And listen to me now, because now I'm a lot more informed and I do know what I'm talking about, and I'm not some stupid fucking dumb idiot or whatever he says in I Think You Should Leave. Yeah, so there is nothing left to lose. I talked about in my ranking video. I don't think I listed it as my top Foo Fighters album of all time, which is weird. I think I gave it to Color in the Shape.
Yeah.
Because I had to judge it, objectively. I was like, listen, this one's my favorite, but that one is probably the best.
No, fuck that. Fuck objectivity.
I do like objectivity. But I like this album more. And part of the reason why is when you're going through the Foo Fighters discography, up until this point, they had 2 albums. One, which was all Dave, and it was basically a garage demo. And then the second, which was a very hyper-produced, professional, big anthemic rock album that had Everlong and Dave on drums still, and My Hero, and these big, big hits. And so for the third album, between band members quitting and Dave going through a lot of really tough times, and I think he went through a divorce too after Color in the Shape. For the third album, they only had 3 members: the recently hired Taylor Hawkins, Nate Mendel on bass, and Dave Grohl on guitar and singing and vocals. And so instead of going back into the studio and doing this big production like they did with Color in the Shape, they had the means necessary to just record it at Dave's house. And I think it was Dave's house where they installed a whole studio in his basement, and everything was done on their schedule. They were like one of the biggest rock bands in the world, so they really could do whatever they wanted. And Dave said, you know what? We're going to do this shit at our own pace. And you can hear it on the record. All of these songs, even the really big, heavy ones and the faster ones like Breakout and Learn to Fly, I guess, is considered heavier. All of the songs sound so much. They sound so warm and relaxed, in my opinion. And especially when you get later in the album with songs like Aurora and Next Year and Ain't It the Life, you start to hear a lot of that comfortability shine through in the production and the songwriting and the performances. Everyone sounds so good, and the fact that it's only 3 of them playing these songs and on the recording, it's incredible what they're able to produce, and it sounds like such a more personal record because it was just the 3 of them going at their own pace, writing whatever they wanted, and doing it from the comfortability of Dave's basement. Yeah, I think I want to hear you talk about the album. I was trying to formulate my sentence in the middle of it.
I think it's pretty good. I mean, I think it's my number 2. I think it's my number 2 on my list.
Yeah.
Because pretty much like you said, all the songs kind of beat ass. Obviously it rips with Stacked Actors in the beginning, which is just kind of a very unique song in their catalog.
Yeah, it's a little bit more, I don't want to say acid rock, but it's very like, the
verses are kind of like kind of trippy.
Yeah.
You get these like hard verses, the hard choruses in the intro, and then it's like he had these like guitar chords that like wow, 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 like ring out in the verses and everything. Yeah, it's a pretty cool song. Breakout was always one of my favorites. Learn to Fly, I think, is also super unique. Because I don't know why for the longest time I thought that shit was a cover because it sounded so different from everything else.
It was it's very like it was one of the first Foo Fighters songs I think up until that point. It sounds like a driving song. And I don't think they really had a whole lot of those, especially in Color and the Shape. It was very like loud and hard, and in the first album it was very grungy. So on this album there's a lot of songs that just kind of like ride, and it's just very smooth and like drive with the windows down, and Next Year kind of feels like that. And my battery pack just died, so you're not going to see my face. But that doesn't matter. This is a podcast. You're listening to my beautiful, beautiful, silky voice. But continue.
Generator, good song as well.
They played that at a Riot Fest.
They did.
I did not expect them to play Generator.
That was pretty cool because it has a voice box.
Yeah.
They also don't. It's a lot of songs on here are very different from everything else. You got like the weird trippy verses in Stacked Actors. You get the super wavy thing in Learn to Fly. You get the voice box in Generator, and of course, Aurora is very good. MIA, I always get this chorus stuck in my head.
Yeah. Give Me Stitches is pretty good.
Yeah.
Live in Skin is probably one of the weaker songs on the album, but I still like it. There's just something. It's a very confident album. Like there are some times where an album will come out and you listen to the songs and you're like, man, that shouldn't have been on this record. But even the songs that like aren't necessarily my favorite on the album, I can still.
We're one cam in this bitch.
We're one cam in this bitch. Even like the songs that are a little bit weaker in my opinion, I still really like. And and I didn't find out until after his passing that apparently Aurora was Taylor Hawkins' favorite Foo Fighters song. So when we saw them at Riot Fest, that was one of the first. That was the first time and only time that we saw them without Taylor. Dave made the whole speech about how they're gonna play it every show until they die, because it was Taylor's favorite song. And I fucking cried when we saw them at Riot Fest and they did that song. And for me, I think one of the reasons why it hits so much more for me is because I lived in Aurora, granted Aurora, Illinois, but I lived in Aurora for like 3.5 years, and I have a lot of memories from when I lived in Aurora. So when I listen to the song Aurora, it hits on multiple levels. So yeah, man. I don't know when I'm gonna do a cover of it, but
we both talked about this album on our channels, so just fucking watch it.
Yeah,
watch those.
Yeah, watch those. We go a little bit more in depth there. But yeah, there's nothing left to lose. I don't know where it sits on a lot of other people's lists of Foo Fighters albums, but
if it's not top 3, you're incorrect.
Correct. That's the right answer. It's got to be Wasting Light, Color and the Shape, and There's Nothing Left to Lose. It's just the trifecta, dude. So yeah, now we've almost reached the end of our journey in episode 42. Ooh. And we're going to talk about a game that David's never played before, which I think is the best way to end. All right, unless there's another song you want to talk about.
No, just make sure we covered them all, and we did.
Okay. Oh, sick, dude.